Hi. In this episode, I will walk back to the May Day celebrations in 1986 in Moscow. In 1986, it was the 99th year celebration of May Day. In other words, May 1st, 1987 would have been the 100th anniversary of observance of the May Day. Well, one thing that needs underscoring is that every organization, every group, every residential group, in other words, people of all classes will participate in this May Day celebration by sending a small group to represent the parent group in the parade in the Red Square. In the Red Square, I think the party bosses, which is the chiefs of administration, will be standing on a gallery on top of the Lenin Mausoleum and will be receiving the salute of the May Day, by the people participating in the parade. So, in respect of the People's Friendship University, the May Day was represented by a group of students, foreign students, and faculty. I was also invited to participate in the parade. In other words, not all the students do participate, but a representative group will be participating in the parade. So we were asked to line up in front of the building, University Complex, in the number 3 Ordonishkitse. And I was, by the side of Comrade Strode Kropchev, and we slowly walked up the street toward the Leninsky Prospect. And, then along the Leninsky Prospect, and we walked toward the Red Square. But the walk was not very simple. If you had walked from the Ordonishkitse PFU complex to the Red Square, it would have taken only 4 hours, only 1 hour or even less. You can take a brief or a short cut to that region. However, this being a parade, this was a march with dozens of stops and goes. You walk for a while, for say 5 minutes, then you stop for 5 or 10 minutes. In other words, this is to regulate the groups to join the mainstream in the Leninsky Prospect, walking toward the Red Square, and also to reduce overcrowding in the what is called Red Square. So when we started by 8:30, we reached the Red Square area by about approximately 11 o'clock in the morning. And there we saluted, like I also did that, just follow what the crowd does. And this was received by waving of hands by the party bosses or the administration's dignitaries, because party and administration are one and the same thing. in the Soviet days. Anyway, then we walked down the Red Square and made a U-turn, and then followed along the side of the GUM, Gosdurnaya Universalny magazine, and then walked out of the Red Square on the side of the church, and then past the Hotel Russia, where Lenin, on his arrival on the first night during the revolution, stayed, and not only first night, several months. And then that was the end of the, what is called the May Day March. Then Mr. Comrade Strode invited me to join him to go to his apartment. And I don't exactly remember where the apartment is, but anyway, we had to take a bus from Lenin Library bus stop. Of course, you go under the streets from the what is called the Red Square. We walked down what is called a subway, and instead of turning down to take an escalator to the metro, we walked straight ahead over to the Lenin Library side. Lenin Library is also in Russian, it is called Lenin Biblioteka. And from there we took a bus. Took only 20 minutes to reach the apartment of Comrade Strode Kropotchev. Then I think it is third or fourth floor in the building. We walked up because, not that there is no elevator, but, we chose to walk up because it is the third floor. The third floor in India is the fourth floor there. That is the difference. The street level floor is called 1 or labeled as 1 in Europe, including Soviet Union. Whereas in India, the street level floor is labeled as 0. Well, of course, when we put something Indian into everything we do, we actually destroy the beauty of it, the elegance of it, the glamour of it. And putting something something to Indianize will actually make everything, practically almost everything, catastrophic. Anyway, quote unquote catastrophic. That is how I see it. Now, there I had sat with the family. Mrs. Kropotchev was working in the MGU, Moskovsky Gosdurnaya University, in the language department. And the first thing, when you walk into any apartment or any home in Moscow, so to speak, in Soviet Union, what you have to do is you, of course, get rid of your overwear, and then you leave your shoes. There's a space, footwear in a space, and then walk into the apartment, and there will be a tea table actually, and almost not only 100% of all the homes will have a samovar, a tea kettle, and which will be always full with warm tea. Because when you are coming from outside, you get some warmth. Well, the reason is that in winter it will be very harsh. So what is done is, around the samovar, the table, there will be several glass cups, and without anybody's offering or asking you whether you would like tea or not, you can, customarily, you open the little valve and pour your tea. And then what you do is you hold the cup with both the palms of the hands. Both hands, so that you will get some kind of radiating heat getting into your body from the hot tea. Then you take sips or you sip through, and there is no limit as to the number of cups you can sip through, and it is always black tea. And of course, we sat there, talked about so many things with that Mrs. Kropacci. And during that process, we were munching on so many things, including cold cuts, vegetable salads, biscuits, and breads. So finally, around 16 hours or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I took leave of the Kropacci family. And Kropacci came down and saw me off at the entrance of what is called the apartment complex. Then from there, I took a bus to Lenin Library. From Lenin Library, I took another bus to what is called university area. In other words, Metro Universitet or Jawaharlal Nehru station, whatever. From there, I walked down through the Lomonosky Ploshad to the Murtinsky intersection, and there on the left side, or rather to the southwest, corner, there stands our university hostel. Now, one thing I want to emphasize here is a very curious thing during the what is called the May Day parade. As per the situation in Soviet Union way back in the 80s or whatever, all the people, all the citizens are not communists. In other words, they are not actively working for the party, wherever they are working, whether in the university or in a factory or in the policeman or whatever, or in the army, so to speak. In other words, there will be a lot of people who are card holders, and there are more people without any membership card. So, for example, what is the advantage of having a membership card in the party? Obviously, when everything else being equal, what the party does is, party will prefer for the appointment or giving a job or giving a upping or giving a promotion first to what the people holding a party membership card. Only later the question of the non-party member people, in other words, people without the party membership card, they will be considered for any kind of promotion or whatever in career, etc. That is one thing we have to keep in mind. Number two, a very interesting situation in Soviet Union, which led to probably one of the reasons for going into the system, going into disarray and finally dissolution, I think was the system they followed, whereby if you graduated from high school and joined a manufacturing unit, at the end, or even you went for beekeeping, let us say, this is also considered a job, a profession in the country, in the Soviet Union. If you went for beekeeping, then when you finally retire, you will have the same financial benefits as your own classmate who went through PhD, colleges, universities, PhD, and then joined academic work as a teacher in the university. And when the teacher in the university retires, he would have this nearly similar financial benefits that the fellow who was the retired professor's classmate and went into beekeeping after 12th class or after the high school. So this is, for example, Thrivikramji himself has a brother who was an engineer and was working in a port in Odisha, actually in the what is called building of ships and repair, etc. There is a dock, dry dock or wet dock, whatever. And after about 15 or 20 years, this gentleman decided to discontinue that job and go into farming. And what is that farming he chose? The farming he chose was beekeeping. He has 3 children, all girl children, and his wife. And all the 5 members of the family collectively got what this gentleman used to get as a monthly wage for working in what is called the support. Okay, that aside. Another point. When I first walked through what is called the Leninsky Prospect, in the direction opposite of the Kremlin area, as I entered from Lomonosky Prospect, then what I noticed is, obviously, like earlier I made a mention of, there is a 6-lane road, 6 lanes going up, 6 lanes going down, and this road in the direction I walked on that day goes to one of the airports, or the VVIP airports, where sets of states and nations will land and take off after the visit to the Moscow government officials. And then what I noticed is there was no street lighting along the median. The street lighting is on the street edges of the streets and along the sidewalk of the street. And all those what is called lamp poles were obviously steel tubular poles and were painted in green. It is 1986, and were painted in green because along the edge of the road there is a row of parallel to the street, shade trees or avenue trees planted. And one thing else I noticed on these lamp poles is a horn of loudspeaker, each fitted to the poles. And I couldn't ask anybody who came by what the purpose of those horn loudspeakers were. The horn loudspeaker also was painted in green. So on the day of the May Day parade, I discovered that the purpose of the horn loudspeaker is to blare out patriotic songs, slogans, in praise of the Labor Day and the importance of labor in the country, the economy of the country, as well as to blare out the key sentences or key paragraphs from the talks, from the announcements by the great leaders of the nation. That was the purpose of the horn loudspeaker that is fitted very regularly. I have not seen what Tokyo at all, but I read about what the disaster preparedness or disaster warning system in Tokyo. In many of the villages or many of the small towns in Japan, including Tokyo City, they have a public address system fitted to these, lamp posts, steel or whatever lamp posts, which will tell the public or warn the public about the menace or a catastrophic or semi-catastrophic disaster that may strike that region of the country called Japan. Well, of course, in Moscow, purpose is different. One other thing I would want to talk of is the Indira Gandhi Prasad. Indira Gandhi Prasad, I have told earlier, is a region or what is called a square in front of the university or the ministry hotel, where there is a Indira Gandhi statue. This is actually, like I said earlier, at the intersection of Lomonosky Prospect and the Brzezinski Prospect. This statue was unveiled by late Mr. Rajiv Gandhi when he made an official visit to the Soviet Union in 1985. That is another important point about the Indira Gandhi Prasad. I will come up with another story in the next session.